Welcome to Reconcilor 9. This is the new look and feel of Snowden's flagship mining intelligence and reconciliation software. We often have clients reach out to us looking for that reconciliation solution, but with that, they're also looking for a stockpile management solution. To get the reconciliation results that we publish, we need to track all of the material movements on site. So it makes logical sense to have a module within Reconcilor that's dedicated to the stockpile analysis and management of what's going on site. So today I just wanted to give you a couple of examples of different ways that you could look at those stockpiles through the analysis screens. And I'll also just take you through the management screen and what you can do to your stockpiles through that. What we're looking at here is 1 month worth of data. I've chosen to look at 1 month. I could have looked at any particular period. I'm looking at my entire mine site. I'm looking at one stockpile group called post-crusher stockpiles, and within that post-crusher stockpiles, I do only have one stockpile associated with that. Now, I've chosen this one intentionally to keep it simple to begin with, so that when I'm looking at my closing balance, I know that I'm only looking at that one COS stockpile's closing balance over time, and that is for every day on my time scale. I do have the option to look at this data by shift, and that is the lowest level that I can look at this particular chart by shift. The accompanying table below gives you all of the data that makes up these total numbers that we see in the charts above. You can filter on these charts quite easily, and let's just look at additions, and we can start to see the additions per day for the COS over the month of December. And then the associated closing balances for tons, volume, grade, and also metal. So that's really important to note that we carry the metal calculation for all of the movements all the way throughout Reconcilor. It's a tons, grade, and metal reconciliation solution. Another way to look at the stockpile data, and I do have pre-configured screens as I said, is to look at a closing balance screen. So now what I've done is I've taken my stockpile group filter off, but I've said, okay, I'm now interested in looking at stockpiles that have a material type of high grade or medium grade assigned to them. And here I can see that I've got a number of stockpiles, and these are my stockpile names, HG2, HG3, and so forth. And I can see that I've got several of those stockpiles with quite a decent closing balance on them. I am still looking at the table type the same way that I was looking at before. Do that. I have a couple of different options of looking at a table. I can look at it by summary, which is my transaction types down one column. I could look at a summary pivot where I have closing balance, then additions, and then reclaims across the page. But I've also got movements. Movements will take me through the individual movements on and off a stockpile for a particular period. So let's just take the closing balance off for a moment and look at my additions. And you can see here I've got some dig block IDs that have come from the pit straight to the HG3 stockpile and a crusher, source material type of crusher, which is considered a high grade material type. The same when I go to reclaim. If we've got some reclaim here, we can see that the source was the MG1 stockpile, and that materials was being delivered to the crusher. Now the grade that's being associated with all of these stockpiles is an average weighted grade, and that will be the grade that is taken when it moves to the crusher. Another way of looking at the material is to look at the same set of stockpiles, but now I'm looking at the total closing balance for that whole set of stockpiles and looking at the proportion of each individual stockpile that makes up that stockpile or that set of stockpiles. So we can see that the MG3 has 1.29 million tonnes, types associated with it that make up the total number for this group of stockpiles. Again, I'm looking at a stacked closing bar chart here. I happen to be looking at it by material type. I could be looking at it by stockpile group, or by material type group. So that's a couple of different ways you can look at your stockpiles. You can turn tables on and off. You can have it just so that it's a chart only. You can change the measures on both axes. You can change the grades and maybe display all of your grades and metal in the tables. Lots of different ways of showing stockpile analysis for reporting, for just general analysis. I'll just take you through now to the management screen. So the management screen is just a way to manage your stockpiles. Okay. You won't be in here very often. It is just the options to edit, to delete, to set an algorithm. So you can change the modeling algorithm type at any stage, and also to make adjustments to the stockpile. It will give you a closing balance, not your grade, but your closing tons, volume, and obviously an SG density, so that you can make sure that that volume and tons equation is correct for any particular date and shift that you choose. I've chosen to sort my stockpiles here by the stockpile group. I didn't have to have that. I could have just had a straight stockpile list, or I could have had them sorted by material type. A few different ways there. If I go into one of these stockpiles and if I click on it, it will take me through to the Edit Stockpile screen, and this is where you can see how a stockpile is being set up. For material to be delivered to a stockpile, it must exist in Reconcilor. So you can either enter it in manually, or we can set it up so that it's a triggered new stockpile based on your haulage. I always suggest that it's something that's manually set up in Reconcilor, so that you can assign material types, you can assign lithology types, locations, you've got alternative names. If it had an opening balance already, you could assign the tons and the opening grade associated with that, and you do have the option to put a closing date and shift on a stockpile. If you do have a closing date and shift, Reconcilor will raise a haulage error to say that it's trying to deliver material to a stockpile that's already been closed. So that would need either rectifying in Reconcilor that it was a viable movement, or you would need to go back into your source system and make sure that you had the right destination on that movement. So hopefully that's just given you a really brief understanding of how you can see Reconcilor treating stockpiles, and just know that there's, like I say, there's many ways of showing stockpile movements on and off and closing balances within the software. If you'd like to see more or some specific examples, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can contact me through the website on snowdengroup.com. I look forward to sharing the next video with you. Thanks for your time.